You're listening to the audio portion of Workshop Wednesdays. Workshop Wednesdays is a free live discussion about topics affecting accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. You can join the ABO group in Facebook to participate live Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Just search for ABBO in Facebook. This podcast is brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you will learn, grow, and build a thriving bookkeeping practice. We have hundreds of lessons with almost every aspect of the industry. Start your free month today at Schoolofbookkeeping.com.
Workshop Wednesday. My name is Dan DeLong, and I'll be your only guest here today, or your only host here today, because Carrie is off with her son doing some college orientation. So it'll just be me today. And today we're actually going to be talking about the conversion of QuickBooks Desktop to online, because there's been a lot of push from Intuit as far as the online ecosystem, apps, and being able to set up those types of things. There's a lot more development resources available for QuickBooks Online. So a lot of people are abandoning QuickBooks Desktop and going to QuickBooks Online. So there actually is a pretty easy and pretty straightforward way to convert your data from desktop to online. I'm going to walk through some of that today, just really the basics of how to do that. So the couple things that you want to, I got my notes here. A second here, bring this up. So the first thing is how much data you want to actually be able to bring over into QuickBooks Online. In the perfect world, you want all your data because if you're going from desktop to online, you want to have all that data so that you can do that. And in a perfect world, or in an ideal situation, that's what will happen. Your customer list, your chart of accounts, your vendor list, and all of that financial history will make the journey from desktop to online, but there are some things that it can't do. So I'm going to post in the comments an article that Intuit has made to be able to give you an understanding as to what's going to happen when you send information from desktop to online. But the goal is that everything will make the journey, at least the financial impact of that transaction from desktop to online. So the biggest challenge that some people might run into is when they're using payroll inside of QuickBooks Desktop, because the transition between desktop to online when it comes to payroll involves a service. So in order for QuickBooks Online to create that payroll information, you have to turn on payroll in order to do that as best as it can. And the financial impact of the paychecks doesn't get, it transitions over, but it doesn't actually turn a paycheck into a paycheck, because it can't actually generate or create paychecks from desktop into online. So that's one thing to kind of consider when you are thinking about transitioning from desktop to online. Is what's going to happen to payroll. It does set up payroll as best as it can and enter that payroll data for that particular year in historical paychecks, but they aren't actual paychecks. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're transitioning from desktop to online. So to actually do that, let's go ahead and share my screen here. Should be able to see everything here, including myself. We don't want that. Go ahead and minimize that. So I've got a desktop file here. I've already converted this to online to give you an idea. So first thing that you want to be able to do, or want to do first, is check the size of the company file. There is a limitation on what will actually be able to transition from desktop to online. With regards to this figure right here, it's the total targets. Now that total target should be less than 350,000. So you can see this one here is less than 20,000. Now what a target is a line item reference, right? So if you have an invoice with 5 line items on it, that can be referencing that transaction's referencing 6 targets. So it's just an indication of how much data is actually in the company file, and QuickBooks Online has a limitation of 350,000. So that number, if it is exceeded, that company file would not be able to be brought over in that state. And then you have to consider, well, how much information would I have to pare down? And there's services that will do that for you. You can use the condensed feature inside of QuickBooks to be able to pare that down to get that number below a certain figure. Once it's below 350,000, then you can proceed to be able to convert the data to QuickBooks Online. So the easiest way to do that when you're using a non-enterprise version of QuickBooks is as long as you're logged in as the company admin, when you go to company, the last option there will be export your company file to QuickBooks Online. As long as you can see that, you'll be able to start the process. Now, Enterprise doesn't have this menu option. So a way to do that is you bring up this product information window, which is the F2 key on the keyboard, or the Control 1. That will bring up this product information window. And then on your Windows keyboard is Control B and then Control Q, and then click OK. Once you click OK, this screen will come up and start the process of being able to export to QuickBooks Online. I'm going to do it again from the company menu. Export to QuickBooks Online. This is the newer screen, a wizard when you go through this process. So you just click, well, let's go. Oops, I hit we want to hit move now. All right, and the first thing it's going to ask you is, especially if you've got items or inventory set up, is to set up inventory tracking in the QuickBooks Online company. The reason that you need to modify this or check this is because QuickBooks Online calculates based on first in, first out, or FIFO, as far as the cost calculation. And QuickBooks Desktop, especially the non-Platinum edition, is going to use weighted average. So that's another thing to consider. If you do have and track inventory inside of QuickBooks Desktop, your financials might not match to the penny when you're doing that because of the variances in cost calculations, especially if you have things going up and down in prices. But you want to set the start date, and typically that's going to be the first of the year is ideally the first option there that you want to choose. But if you want to go back farther than that, you certainly can. But usually the first of the year. And then it's going to ask you to sign in to your QuickBooks Online subscription. So obviously you want to set up the company subscription ahead of time to be able to do this. So you just would sign in and then you would just enter in your login information. Now, I'm not going to complete this process because I've already done it, but this will give you an idea of how what the flow actually looks like. Help if I typed in my password correctly. Did I spell it right? I have things memorized. Spelling it backwards. Caps lock is not on. Complete. Oh, there we go. That's why I didn't even put in the login name is not correct. Businessgroup.com. There we go. Just like a customer. All right. So then once you sign in, then it's going to ask you it's going to give you a listing of the company files that are eligible to import into. Now it's important to note that there is a 60-day import window with which to do this. So once that 60 days has transpired, that company would not be eligible to be able to be imported into. So like this one here, it was created on March 29th. If I tried to import into that company file, it would probably give me an error message because this is July already. So what we would do is we would choose, this company is Gorilla Enterprises. So I would look for Gorilla. You can search at the top here, assuming you spell it right again. And then it will give you the option to import. Now, I'm not going to say continue here because then it's going to overwrite the data that's already in there. So what will happen is it will go through a process, upload the data, and then you're done with QuickBooks Desktop at that point, and then you just have to wait. As far as how much waiting, it depends on how much data is actually needing to be imported. This one here took about maybe 5 minutes. So once it's uploaded, just had to wait, and then 5 minutes later, I got an email. And that email will look something like this. So it'll say, success, your QuickBooks import report is ready to review. You'll receive this report if there was something that didn't actually make the journey. So it just opens up in Excel. So you can just download it and open it in Excel. And the way to kind of read this is to look at, just look at it's broken down into tabs. So once this opens up here, so it'll give you the information about the company online details versus the desktop details, and then you'll see here the import summary, right? So, so it'll give you an idea of the number of accounts, and then the number of accounts that was made in QuickBooks Online during the import. So 113 and 113, so the difference is 0. So really that's the column you want to be focused on here, is what's the difference as far as the summary is concerned. So there were 5 items in the desktop company file and 4 items were created in the online file. And so there was a difference of 1, and you can click on the link here to see the item details, and it will tell you why it didn't come over, right? So in this particular case, item tax groups was the item that was created. So there was a sales tax group created in the desktop file. That doesn't exist in QuickBooks Online, so it didn't even bother creating that item on the item list. And the other thing that didn't come over is the form template. So there were 25 forms. These are the sales forms that are created. Online, there was 9 created, so there was a discrepancy of 16. The reason being is that there is no sales form template. Typically, that's what you're going to see, is that the credit memo, you can't customize the sales form template in the credit memo in QuickBooks Online, so you can't create that template. You can't customize the sales receipt. You can't customize the daily sales summary or quote or proposal. So it wasn't able to create those form templates. So by and large, this was a good import, right? So biggest concern or biggest issue was the sales tax payable, because it did not, sales tax is handled differently in QuickBooks Online than it is in desktop. So it did actually create the transactions and put them in the right place. It just had to do it in a way that QuickBooks Online understood that. So that's what this is actually here. So the last part of checking your data is to run a couple of reports. And the best reports to run are balance sheets and profit and loss for all dates on an accrual basis. So why would you want to use an accrual basis versus cash? One is, again, with going back to inventory. If there is inventory used, cash basis reports in QuickBooks Online don't calculate properly at all. So you want to make sure that you're using accrual, even if you are on a cash basis inside of QuickBooks Online, if you are using inventory, just so that they calculate the cost properly and show up properly on the reports. And also, if something didn't get applied, like a invoice to a payment or a bill to a bill payment, cash basis reports aren't going to show those properly. So you want to run it on an accrual basis just to make sure that all the data came over properly. So I have a balance sheet I'm just running this as of July 14th, which is today, but you just want to run that for all dates, right? And I like to collapse them just so that I can get the grand total, right? So this is 125, 82243, and if I run that in my desk or my online file, whoops, got the wrong tab open here. Go to this one. There we go. So this is run for all dates as well. Also on accrual, we can see that there is a discrepancy, right? So I do this 126, 146. So this is 125, 8221. Now, the reason that this is happening is that somebody has actually started using this company file, and they're actually entering in transactions. So if I were to be able to roll those back, if I look in the audit log, I can see this person is creating invoices, and if I can roll those back, then we'll, because it matched yesterday. The problem is they're adding, entering in transactions today, but they're also entering them backdated transactions as well. So it doesn't match today, but a good way to actually, if you do see a discrepancy like that, what you can do is you can run these reports for all dates and then show the columns by year, right? That fiscal year, sorry. Run this by fiscal year, and then I do the same thing for QuickBooks Desktop, years. Right, and then what we would do is we would look at the columns. Again, I collapse them so that we'd take a look at the columns here, and go back over here to this one, collapse it. And what I would look for is what's the first year that things didn't match, right? So I can see 2015 is fine, 2016 is fine, 2017. So it goes up to this year, right? And that's when things get out of whack. So what I would do is I would run those reports for the same time period, just for this last year or with the first year that it goes out of balance, and then do the columns by month. And then I would see when those compare those reports and see where they go out of balance until I get down to the day, right? And then I can drill in on the accounts. So then at that point, I would expand the account listing and then compare the accounts to see where they actually went out of balance. Was it the bank account? Was it the accounts receivable? And then determine whether or not I need to just re-enter that information. In this case, it's because somebody is actually working in the live file. And if I were to take those things back out, they would match. So that in a nutshell is converting data for QuickBooks Desktop into online. If things don't work out well, I mean, you can always reach out to us here at School of Bookkeeping, and we can, help you troubleshoot the discrepancy between these two to help figure out whether it's okay. If it's something that is significant, you can fix that information inside of QuickBooks Desktop and then re-import into online again, because you have as many times as you need within that 60 days to import into desktop again. So that's really an overview of converting your desktop data into QuickBooks Online. Next week, when Carrie's back, we'll be talking about and walking through converting your data from online to desktop. So this is a situation where they've converted to desktop, or they started in online rather, and they want to go back to desktop. Maybe they need some of the functionality of enterprise or something like that. So you want to be able to convert that from online to desktop. So we'll walk through that next week on that Workshop Wednesday, and we'll hopefully see you then. Have a great day.
Bye.